guys, now we're down to Atlanta. Obviously, the NFC South team that in a pretty weird spot after back-to-back 7 and 10 seasons. Of course, Arthur Smith, if he doesn't have the rails fall off, pretty sure he's going to be their coach next year. But either way, interesting team. Obviously, they've got some pretty decent players in this team. Let's go. Atlanta Falcons 2023 roster grades. They're looking to win the division. Will they? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of be like a tank division, but here we go. Falcons roster grades. Let's go. And with that, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to Final Of course, please like and subscribe, and I hope you guys enjoyed the Atlanta Falcons 2023 roster grades. Of course, if you didn't know, yeah, I do think this team is going to be running the ball a lot more than they throw the ball, honestly. I think they're going to run the ball a lot. And to be completely honest, their defense is built for that type of game because, yeah, they're supposed to be able to handle the run, but as well, their secondary is at a point where they're going to have to be really good because third year under Arthur Smith, they've got a couple of good defensive coaches, but their secondary coaches are coming like the third straight year being with the Falcons. So I do expect this secondary to really take a step up. But either way, guys, again, going through this Falcons roster again, every single grade is worth at least 5 points. So whatever the points say. So a difference between a D plus and an A plus is a pretty big difference. Let's get right into it though with Desmond Ridder in this quarterback position. And, of course, with the Falcons, Desmond Ridder will be their starter. And last year, in the 4 starts he got, he was okay. I mean, he didn't turn over the football. He actually didn't really have any passes that could have been picked off. He protected the football pretty well. He wasn't good downfield, but on his downfield passes, he wasn't terrible. He did take a couple too many sacks, I'll be honest there. Wasn't terrible. Again, his running game did help him a lot. Again, off play action, he was pretty good, but he needs to make those throws over the middle better. And again, he can't hang those passes on the outside because, again, some of those passes would have gotten intercepted. He wasn't crazy great. He wasn't terrible, though. He did run the ball a couple times, though, and he was pretty good. I do think he'll get a lot more carries this year. But, obviously, he's a dual-threat quarterback. His arm isn't great, but it's good. He's not the best at reading defenses in a drop-back system at all. And his accuracy is I wouldn't say all over the place, but he doesn't have the touch. Like, he's got pretty bad touch. Like, you're not going to see him drop a bomb or anything like that. But I do think he has some pretty good vision, even if his progressions aren't as good as you'd like. But yeah, Desmond isn't terrible. I'm not super confident in him, but it's okay. Because Taylor Heinicke as a backup is not too bad. Honestly, I don't fully understand why they benched him after that game against the Niners. I mean, he did struggle, but in his 9 starts, they were good. What did they go? 1, 2, 3, 4. He went 5 and 4 in those. 5, 3, and 1 in his starts. And not gonna lie, he was good. Obviously, 2021 was his 1 year as his starter. He wasn't great. I mean, he kind of tailed off towards the end, but kind of worked out. And he had like a good year in 2020. He's been a journeyman. He's not a bad backup at all. I think he's probably a top 5 backup in the league. He flat out wins games and is a great leader. Obviously, he doesn't have a very good arm. He can make big time throws though. Like on the run, making throws like that, he can make big throws. That's like something he can do, even if his arm isn't crazy great. And he does turn over the football a little bit too much. But yeah, Taylor Heinicke isn't a bad backup at all. He's a very good backup, honestly. Logan Woodside, maybe not the guy I want to see in the field, but again, at Toledo, he worked out. He had a pretty good arm. I'm not mad about him being there. Felipe Franks, he's actually tight end too. He's very fun to watch in the preseason. That's all I got to say about him, though. And just because in this Falcon system, quarterback isn't that big of a deal, because if you watched him last year, Marcus Mariota was not good. He just straight up wasn't. He wasn't good. And they still won, like, I don't know, what, they went 5 and 8 with him, so that isn't good, but it could be worse. I don't know. I'm struggling with giving him a D plus or a C minus, because I want to give him a C minus, but at the same point, should I give him a C minus? I gotta give him a D plus. What did I give? I'll give him a C minus, because, to be honest, Desmond Ridder, he could stink, but they still have Taylor Heinicke there. And I'm going to be honest, Taylor Heinicke, I think, is at the worst, is like a bottom 10 starting. Like, I do think Taylor Heinicke can win you games. So, as much as Desmond Ridder is a question mark, I do think that Taylor Heinicke can come in there and do the job if Desmond Ridder can't. So, I don't think there's much risk in this Falcons quarterback room. Not going to lie, the Falcons are one of them, I wouldn't say QB friendly, but the quarterbacks don't have to do as much as a lot of other teams. So, I got to give them 20 points for here. I just got to think that if Desmond stinks, they have a quarterback to back him. So, they do have an insurance. And, again, Taylor Heinicke will be, honestly, at the worst, a C-minus quarterback. So, I got to give him that just because I don't think the quarterback position for the Falcons, not only that isn't probably one of the only teams in the league where it's not the biggest deal, but as well, I don't really think that there's, like, again, a lot of risk in this quarterback position. Like, it's pretty straightforward. If Desmond doesn't get it done, Taylor Heineke will come in and get the job done. Time for the running backs now. Oh boy. So if you didn't know, in the NBA, Victor Wembanyama is being talked up as the best prospect since LeBron, or even as good as LeBron. And not gonna lie, Bijan Robinson is a similar category. The only issue with him is I don't know if his speed will translate to the NFL, because he's not that fast. He's fast, but he's not that fast. So he's a do-it-all back for sure. He might be the only back for the next 10 years who's a true down-to-down back, which is pretty crazy to say. But Bijan Robinson is going to be their number one back. He'll get a ton of carries. He will be very good. And then you got Tyler Algier behind him, who is a very, very good tank back. Obviously, he ain't going to do a ton in the receiving game, but he was a very good back for them as a runner. I mean, again, not going to make the big play, but he's good. The guy who can, though, is Cordell Patterson. He will be used in every possible way for them. Obviously, last year, better running season than 2021, but he wasn't used nearly as much in the receiving game. I still think he'll be decent, though. I do think he'll need to get more targets in the receiving game to relieve these other two backs who aren't as good. Bijan's still a very good receiving back, but he's not as good as Cordell Patterson is, because, again, Cordell Patterson not only can break the big play, but he's more of a receiving back, so I do expect him to get a lot of targets as well. So they've got, again, 3 really good backs. Even Caleb Huntley, I'm not mad with getting carries, because honestly, last year, if you didn't know who Caleb Huntley is, get ready to know him. Obviously, this Falcons offensive line had a lot to do with his success, but he broke a lot of tackles last year, and he did save the Falcons a lot on third down. So for a guy who no one really knows, Caleb Huntley is a good fantasy pick. I mean, he's not a good fantasy pick because he probably won't get any carries, but they've got 4 freaking backs where I'm like, Caleb Huntley as a rookie last year had a very good season. So I'm not going to lie, I do think the Falcons have 4 really good backs. We got one of the best and most deep runs in the league for sure. Not going to lie, I mean, Bijan's the number 1 back coming in the league. I mean, you probably can't give him top 10 yet, but I got to give them an A, because as much as people want to talk about other teams now, oh, Bijan, he's not like, oh, rookie. But this running back, the only reason we're not going to get an A+ is because if Bijan wasn't here, their running back room wouldn't be here. Because Bijan's a real number 1. Because I like Tyler Algier a lot, but he's not a number 1 back, just straight up. He's a good power back, but the fact that he did, honestly, without Cordell Patterson, I don't think he'd have the same success. I don't think they have an actual number 1 in Bijan Robinson. I'm not, like, Tyler Algier as your number 1's not bad at all, but he is not, like, a top 10 back, like, overall. So, again, not a workhorse, but they do have a very good backfield. Only reason it's not A+, because, again, Bijan hasn't played an NFL snap. That's literally the only reason, but this backfield, pretty much perfect. 9, 18, 27, and 33 points. Wait, right? Yeah, 33 points for that backfield. Time for the wide receiver core. Oh, God. All right, like past years, this Falcons receiving core ain't that great. First off, Drake London, he had a good rookie year, like, a lot better than people would think he did. He actually blocked pretty well, too. I like what he did. He got a good amount of targets, too. So, yeah, only 4 touchdowns, only 866 yards, but I do think he'll have a similar season like this. I think he's good. Again, as the number 8 pick, I don't think he was, like, again, probably one more downfield targets. He didn't get really at all and get a lot. He didn't create too much separation or got really any, like, straight up possession or, like, and many people call him force feeding touches. So that's not great. But Drake London, I do think if he gets more downfield touches this year, that would be targets this year, that would be huge. And as well, I do think his catch percentage wasn't great. But again, it's Marcus Mariota, so you never know. But again, I think he'll have more touchdowns this year. Drake London, I do think will be pretty good. Again, he might not have the same receiving numbers, not going to lie, if they're going to run the ball as much as I do think they will. Maybe he could, but still. Matt Collins, he was good last year. Again, kind of like Drake London, a physical receiver that doesn't, again, both these guys don't create a ton of separation. I will give credit to Drake London, though. He can run routes better than Matt Collins can. But Matt Collins will probably be their red zone guy, not going to lie. But he's also a really good receiver on third down. He somehow gets open, makes catches. Again, really good catch radius. I like him a lot for this team. They really didn't have really any big passing plays this season, where a guy like Desmond Ridder can just chuck it up and Matt Collins will make a play. Obviously, he didn't really get to play a lot with Philly and Miami in the years past, but with the Raiders last year, had his first really good year. I expect him to be a reliable number 2 receiver. Not reliable, but a big play guy. Scotty Miller will be their slot guy most likely, and he will have to make a lot of yak plays, because I'm not going to lie, he might not get a pass or even a touch that is that is supposed to break for like 20 yards. Maybe other than, my bad, passing play. He's not going to get any downfield targets unless he's like wide freaking open for like a 90-yard touchdown or something. Outside of that, he ain't getting any deep targets. I think, isn't he the returner? Yeah. Scotty Miller, I know he's not even the returner. So, no way, is he? Yeah, he's probably the returner. But Scotty Miller, probably not going to have any long touchdowns unless it's like a jet sweep or something, which I think he will get touches on. But targets-wise, he will be a lot of underneath type of plays. Kadeo Hodge is not a terrible guy either. He's a big play receiver. He's pretty fast. The only issue with him is he's a terrible route runner. So if you want to throw him the ball, it better be wide open, because if he doesn't, you can probably pick 6. Frank Darby, I mean, he's kind of a special teamer. I mean, he's been on this team for a little while. Again, he was pretty good in preseason. I mean, not a great 5th option, but he's not terrible. Penny Hart and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, not great. Josh Allen, out of Kentucky, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a couple targets. He's a very talented, athletic receiver, just as kind of brick hands at this point. So that's what I got for the receiving core. It's pretty interesting, but it's not great. I like a lot of the guys they have. It fits their system for sure, but the fact they don't have, like, I mean, I like getting Drake London's a good receiver. Maybe not top 32, but he's getting close to that. They don't have a guy who can straight up just get separation, make it easy on the quarterback. I mean, maybe Scotty Miller, but he's not a third receiver at all. So this wide receiver core, I got to give a C, and then probably a C-. I mean, Drake London's fine. He's a good, like, I'm not mad about him being a #1 receiver. But the other guys, I mean, Matt Collins is okay, but he doesn't, like, I mean, he's okay, I guess. But they don't have a #1, I mean, a really reliable separator. So, for that reason, I mean, it's not the biggest deal in this world. But I do think, honestly, I could give him a D+, but I do think I mean, Scotty Miller is just not that great. But Drake London and Matt Collins are #1s and #3s. So, I'm not going to lie, this receiving core is not good at all. I got to give him a D+. I'm sorry. But Drake London, nothing against Drake London, but he just is his second season. That's what I got. Like, I mean, I don't want to give him this, but I have to, because, I mean, they literally have, like, 2 receivers right now. I like Scotty Miller, but just not it right now. Time for this tight end position. All right, of course, Kyle Pitts is coming off a terrible season. He was not good last year. I'm sorry. I know he tear his ACL. He got really hurt. That's all I'll say. Again, really good rookie season. Again, he only had 1 touchdown, obviously. Last year he had 2, but Marcus Mariota is just not the guy for him. I do think this year he will have to. I do think it's okay if he doesn't get as many targets as you'd like. I don't think he fits in Atlanta at this point, not going to lie, because they're just straight up running the football at this point. But Kyle Pitts is not the worst guy. He's a really weird receiver to have, because he's just such a good, talented receiver. But again, he can't block, which means you can't have him on the short yardage situations. I mean, you can't. And on the goal line, though, he's just not very versatile, which I think is a little bit of a problem. But I still think Kyle Pitts, he's getting better at blocking. But Kyle Pitts, for sure, I wouldn't say it's a make or break season, but he was not great last year in those 10 games. He was still going to go for like a decent amount of yards, but not the numbers we were expecting. So this year I think he'll be good, but I think we got to slow the brakes a little bit. Jonnu Smith as a backup tight end could be worse. I mean, like, again, he was pretty awful with the Patriots in his 2 years, like, really bad. But maybe he gets a couple more touchdowns, but he's still not a great blocker. Parker Hesse, though, is a good blocker. I'll give him that. Parker Hesse is a very solid blocker. So, again, Kyle Pitts and Jonnu Smith are good receiving threats, but the fact that Parker Hesse is huge. Again, Kyle Pitts, he's still a pretty good tight end. I mean, maybe you could probably even argue still top 10 because he's so talented. But this tight end room is a little interesting, but it's still a pretty young group. You can't argue that. Tight end for the Falcons, I still gotta give him a B. I mean, I get Kyle Pitts was really disappointing last year, and Jonnu Smith isn't great, but you can't argue that Jonnu Smith isn't at least a decent backup tight end. And again, Parker Hesse is a good, versatile blocking tight end. So this tight end room is still pretty good, even if it's disappointing. Again, Parker Hesse's fine. 16 points. That's what I got for tight end room. Time for the offensive line. Oh, baby, I'm ready to talk about these dudes. Oh, yeah, I forgot about Keith Smith, the fullback. He's really good at blocking, too. Okay, here's why if these guys, regarding injury, this offensive line will be able to block a running back core that will be able to at least get 3,000 rushing yards. First off, Jake Matthews. He is a good run blocker, a meh pass blocker. He's basically just a dead average guy. He's been on this team since 2014. He's a very solid tackle. I mean, like, maybe not, I don't know, he's probably a little above average. He's not bad. Ethan Greenridge is the backup again, former, Saint. He struggled overall in his time with the Saints, but he did have some good games. Matthew Bergeron is here to replace Matt Hennessy, because not gonna lie, Matt Hennessy's just not very good. He's not the worst guy. Like, I mean, you put him in to block, he's not terrible, but like, he just wasn't a starting caliber player, and he had some really bad games. Matthew Bergeron, again, out of Syracuse as a second-round pick. Very athletic, very good run blocker, power blocker for sure. Out of Syracuse, very quick guy. I mean, for a big, not big guy, but he's a power, like, we're going to try to knock your teeth out. He is a menace. But I will say this, he can't really pass block at this point, like, without getting penalties. Drew Dahlman, very good center. I mean, he was very solid with them last year. Just nothing to complain about there. And even his backup, Ryan Nuzil, again, a guy, bro. Will this load? Okay. Ryan Nuzil at Appalachian State played a little bit in preseason. He's really was a project for them, but I think he will be, as a backup, he's not the worst. Chris Lindstrom is, honestly, he was the best player in the NFL last year. I'm not going to lie. He was outstanding. He didn't have a single game where I'm like, ugh. But he did have some games where he was meh. But at least half of his games, he was the best offensive lineman that week. His run blocking is unmatched. He's, in my opinion, the best run blocker in the NFL. Just overall, because you can't move him, number one. But number two, it's literally impossible to get around him in pass protection when he's truly on. Chris Lindstrom is the best guard in the NFL right now. Cale McGarry, after what was a meh 2021, he was still good, better than you'd expect. He really showed up at the end of last year. Cale McGarry is a very good right tackle, one of the best in the league at this point. Jalen Mayfield, again, don't want him starting, but he's not a bad backup. Again, they have a lot of younger offensive linemen that are not great, but they work. Like Jalen Mayfield and Hennessy were starters. They're good they're not good backups, but they work as backups. Joshua Miles, at Morgan State, he's kind of been a journeyman. He hasn't been terrible in his career, but there's a reason he's bounced out around. The depth on this offensive line isn't great, and Matthew Bergeron can't really run block. His pass blocking could use a lot of work, but the rest of his offensive line is one of the best in the league. Just the fact that this offensive line has every single guy on literally their straight up for a top 10 offensive lineman, all of them are pretty good at run blocking. I gotta give them an A. This offensive line just fits so well in their system. I get the pass blocking could be a little shaky at times, but it doesn't matter. This offensive line will create so much room for these backs. I gotta give them that A. 22 points for that running back room. Time for the offensive line. The overall offensive grade, my bad. And this offense comes out to a C+, which I think is fair because I would be surprised if they're not a bottom 2 passing. Why is that in linebackers? My bad. They come out to 100 points, which in the range comes to a C+, which I think is fair because this offense will probably, I would be honestly surprised if they're not the best rushing offense in the league, just for the fact that there really aren't, outside maybe the Browns, there's an offense where I'm like, yeah, they might contend with them, because the Ravens won't be running the ball as much this year just because of Todd Monken. He likes running the football, but it's more of a spread offense, and they're not really going to be just running and pounding. It's not much of a volume offense. Not only that, though, this West Coast scheme that, what is it called? Who is it? Oh, I just lost. Arthur Smith runs, my bad. I'm slow. It's heavily reliant on the run game. So, I think they run the ball a ton. The fact they got a great offensive line, a really good running back core is huge. But the tight ends will probably still get the most targets. I'm just saying this receiving core ain't that talented in terms of depth. And the quarterback position is definitely not strength. I'm being nice giving them a C-, but I explained that earlier. So, I gotta give him a C+. This offense should be good, but there is a ceiling because you can't expect the team that's really heavily reliant on the running game more than any team in the league by far is gonna really have like 40 points per game. 29, 28 points per game and having like 500 yards total offense, because at this point in time in this type of in the NFL we live in today, passing numbers get you the best offense in the league. That ain't going to be the Falcons this year. Now let's talk about why this offense can be like this. Talking about this defense, with the defense that they put together in this offseason. Time for the linebackers. The Falcons do run a 3-4 defense, which means, thank God, we don't have to talk about the defensive line 4 times. First off, look at these linebackers. Troy Anderson is a starter. He was actually decent last year. I'm not going to lie. I was surprised he actually got as many snaps as he did. But Troy Anderson's a weird guy to Montana State. No one really knows who he is, but he's a flat-out football player. If you didn't know what I talked to about with Jack Sanborn, they both just have a really good feel for the game. They don't make a ton of mistakes in terms of overreading defense. Their instincts as on the field are really good. But talent-wise, he's not great. You can't put him in man coverage really at all. But I do think he is a decent in zone, and he actually can cover the middle of the field pretty well. Again, he is really good gap to gap, really good at maintaining leverage, and he's actually a decent tackler. You don't want him going one-on-one against the number 1 back on the edge. He's not great at chasing guys down in pursuit, but again, flat-out football player making routine plays. He ain't going to miss many of those. Troy Anderson is a very solid linebacker for that reason, but he does have a ceiling for sure, so he could put you in some tough spots. Caden Ellis, on the other hand, he's really he had 7 sacks last year. He will probably play a little bit more on the edge. Honestly, he's probably a top 10 blitzer in terms of guys because pure instincts-wise, he's really good. But at the same point, again, pretty athletic for a guy. He's a little older, but again, very good vet. Was really good with the Saints last year in his first real season starting. You don't want to see him having to go really play at all in coverage because he's just not great. He's okay. I don't know. He's not good in coverage, but Caden Ellis can still make tackles. Really good. What is it called? at chasing guys down as well, really good in pursuit. It's just the fact that I don't think he has the awareness, to be honest, to just cover, straight up cover. So he definitely needs to work on that there. As well, Michael Walker is basically going to be out there to basically just make plays. I mean, he's a playmaker, just simple as that. But he is a liability in coverage when it comes to man-to-man. He will have to be put in those situations, though, because these other two guys won't be doing that at all. So, Michael Walker, again, missed a lot of tackles last year, but I do expect him to be better in coverage. He was still pretty good, though. Dorian Etheridge didn't play really at all, so as a backup, this isn't great, but I do think he's a pretty decent special teamer, worst case. Nate Landman, Tay Davis are both, I mean, Nate Landman, not going to lie, never heard of this dude, but Tay Davis has been in the league a while. I mean, like, maybe not a while, but he's been in the league. He's a decent guy, I guess. Like, I wouldn't say he's a bad fit linebacker, but outside of that, I mean, this linebacking core decent, but it could definitely be better. So they've got some good players. I can't give them a B-, though, because, again, Keaton Ellis really hasn't had to play middle linebacker before. They're not going to use him like that, though. I think it'll be pretty good. And Troy Anderson, again, he got the chance to start, but he really wasn't, like, a full-time, like, you got to be the guy for the whole season. Like, he wasn't down-to-down type of dude, so I don't know for sure about him either. And Michael Walker's supposed to be good in coverage. He wasn't great in coverage last year. Again, he is a liability when you have to have him stopping the run. And for that reason, again, they don't have too much depth either. They got a good group, but I don't think his linebacking core is terrible. I think they're a little better than average because they just have some guys who can do stuff that a lot of other linebackers can't. Like Keaton Ellis' ability to blitz and basically just be a guy who can get after the quarterback, even if he's coming from 7 yards off, is huge. Michael Walker obviously being a very good playmaker, and Troy Anderson having very good instinct, but he's a very good football player. So I gotta give him that T+. Again, I like the group. I think it's a little pretty underrated. People don't give them really as much credit as I think they deserve, but it's still not the greatest group in the world. 18 points, time for the defensive line. All right, it's a pretty old group. I'm not gonna be honest there. Again, Timmy Horn is a backup. Yeesh. I mean, he wasn't bad last year in terms of in run defense, but he can't get after the quarterback at all. It's like he has a horn in his head going after, like, it's not good. He can't get after, like, no pass rush whatsoever. He's just gonna, like, basically be dead meat there. But Grady Jarrett, after a really bad 2021, was good last year. Was he great? No. But was he good? Yes. Again, 6 sacks is a pretty good number for an interior defensive lineman. Obviously, he got a pretty good amount of pressure as well. He's a pretty darn good player. As well, David Onyemata up the middle. I mean, very talented. It's just off the field stuff. You got to talk with him. Outside of that, I mean, you could maybe probably slot him in to be a top 10 overall interior nose tackle in the league. Like, he is very good. When he's on the field, obviously. Calais Campbell's still old. He's still making plays. I mean, yeah, maybe he's not as good as he used to be, obviously, but he's still making being impactful, which I do think is something that's pretty nice to see. But again, he's still freaking 36. You got to keep that in mind. He's still a very good player, but yeah. He's going to be 37 at the start of the season as well. Taquan Graham, he was actually decent. He actually got a little pressure. I'm not going to lie. Like, again, he wasn't great, but he's very good at setting the edge. You're not going to get around him on the You're not going to get around him, but he's a very good 3-tech player. I like Taquan Graham, at least as a rotational guy. And Eddie Goldman coming out of retirement, he might be a little rusty. He actually, but he's a pretty talented guy, again, former Bear. He hasn't had a great season since, I don't even know, probably 2018, but he's back in the NFL. He's going to be a little rusty, but overall, this top 6 could be worse. And with this defensive line, I might give him a B. Yeah, I'll actually give him a B because Timmy Horn and Taquan Graham, as a whole, are pretty good backups. And yeah, Eddie Goldman's old, but not old, but he's coming out of retirement. But the worst case would just be a guy in the middle that then another guy that the offense have to worry about in terms of being on a run against. David Onyemata, yeah, he's very good again when he's on the field. Grady Jarrett's still an above-average player, and yeah, I get Calais Campbell's old, but he can still give you production, which is crazy to say. So overall, this defensive line, man, it might be old, maybe a little risky, but I still got to give him that B because it's a good group. 6, 12, 16. You could argue it's the best defensive line that the Falcons have had in a long time, maybe since they had Vic Beasley. At least at the start of the season, because he's actually really good with them at some points. Vic Beasley now, I don't know what to say. He's been pretty much just straight up disappointing. But either way, time for the pass rush. Alright, first off, last year, Lorenzo Carter was the #1 pass rusher for the Falcons last year. He actually wasn't terrible. He got you some pretty good pressure, but wasn't nearly as good as a #1 guy needs to be. He still had a pick 6. He still figured out ways to make plays. Like 58 total tackles and 4 sacks for a guy who's supposed to be like a #3 pass rusher isn't terrible. I do think Lorenzo Carter is a backup. Maybe not as backup, but as a rotational guy who can come. He's actually probably a down-and-down guy because he's pretty versatile. So he's a starting caliber edge rusher, but you can't expect a ton of production out of him. He still gets decent pressure for a guy we didn't expect. Like, again, he was not great with the Giants, but I think he's a solid player. Bud Dupree is going to be their #1 edge rusher. I mean, he didn't play a ton with the what it's called, Titans last year. Only 11 games. He's really struggled with injury the past couple years, and really hasn't been the same since 2020. And even then, got hurt. But he's actually really good with the Titans since then. I mean, I get mine. Well, he was good with the Steelers up until then. But since then, again, he's been kind of a disappointment, but still getting decent production, just not great. If he can finally stay healthy, I'll expect him to be decent, but still not great. Arnold Ibikidi, he's really has the highest potential out of all these guys, but he's still pretty raw. His finesse moves really need to what it's called, go up this year. Like, he needs to definitely turn it up, but still, I think he'll be good. But decent in run defense, but he definitely could be better. Adekungbo Ogundenji is horrible. There's no way around it. He's not good. As well, Zach Harrison and what is this, guys? I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea who this dude out of Rice is. I do expect a little bit out of him, though. I'm not gonna lie. Zach Harrison, though, he should be decent out of Ohio State. I mean, he gets a little pressure once in a while, but he's definitely more of a guy you're going to see as a sneaky guy, and he actually is a decent estimate. D'Angelo Malone, I don't want to see on the field. He's just terrible. So, overall, this pass rush, though, get okay interior pressure, and the edge rushers will probably be weak, but they have some depth, which is decent, but, I mean, it's going to be a meh pass rush. I got to give him a C because the edge rushers are just not reliable, and that's, like, probably the worst thing you can have. I mean, I do expect that, what the heck was it? I'm just one freaking, oh yeah, Lorenzo Carter I expect to get, be consistent at least, but outside of that, I mean, you can't really expect much, because Arnold Ibikidi is still growing as a player, and, the interior pressure should be decent, but Bud Dupree, Adekungbo Ogundenji, Zach Harrison, again, all those guys are straight up question marks. Adekungbo Ogundenji, oh god, don't want to see him on the field. So C is what I gotta give him because again the edge rushers are just not great. I do expect them to be decent though, which is what they're gonna. Once it comes out to, like on paper it's not great, but I think they'll be fine. Comes out to 12, 24 points for that pass rush. Time for cornerbacks. All right, this quarterback run for the Falcons is definitely an interesting group. First off, D. Alford is a decent player. Like he's actually got some decent length. The reason I go to him first is because I do expect him to be a pretty big impactor in their dime packages where you have to worry about him because he could be the guy that brings it back for a touchdown. I mean, he basically he's gonna be your big play guy. He had 7 pass deflections in the minimal snaps he got, but I do think D. Alford is a pretty good guy to watch out for. I think he's a decent player. Again, decent length, very good at just basically reading the field. Like, again, you don't want him playing Superman or anything like that, but he's pretty versatile. With all things said. AJ Terrell, again, definitely took a step back from that really good 2021, but he's still a #1 corner for sure. He's been by far the best cornerback from that 2021 draft, 2020 draft, by far. But I still think he can bounce back this year. Again, wasn't terrible last year, just a down year. But another guy who finally was able to play last year in Jeff Okudah, who was the #3 pick in that same draft as AJ Terrell, is expected to be pretty good. I mean, last year he wasn't great, but again, first year start, really young on to play. He was, I think he was, again, wasn't great, but I think he was a little above average. I think, Jeff Okudah coming this year will be decent. Again, not great in man overall, but again, he's very instinctful and again, really good at just basically staying disciplined. But that athleticism that people worried about, I think might come back to bite him a couple times this year. Darren Hall is just a freaking monster. I don't know other way to put it. Like, he makes so many plays and he's really good. He's really good. Again, maybe might not be the best in coverage or really the most disciplined at all, but outside of that, he's pretty good. Again, really good at just basically making plays. Clark Phillips III, the reason they drafted him is basically they need a slot corner in the worst way. At least at the end of last year, he'll be that for them. I mean, he's very good in the slot. Mike Hughes, he's on this team. He actually played well with the Falcons last year. I mean, was he playing with the Lions? Yeah, he actually played decent with the Lions last year. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but he got the job done. Like, Amani Oruwariwe, who he replaced, he was fine. Even freaking Trey Flowers. So, I mean, yeah, he played with the Bengals last year. I mean, he is even on this team. They've got like 7 corners. So, it's definitely a deep group. Yeah, and I'm not going to lie, it's actually pretty underrated. They've got a good cornerback room. I can't give him an A- because, I don't know, should I give him an A-? I think this cornerback room is pretty good. Because, again, they've got 7, maybe not starting caliber guys, but guys that are good. You know what? Let's give him an A-. I get AJ Terrell had a down year last year, but I do think they have at least, AJ Terrell is still an above average corner, and Jeff Okudah, I think, is a starting caliber corner. And they've got, Darren Hall and, D. Alford are, at the very worst, average guys. But at the best, they're big impactors. And again, Trey Flowers, Mike Hughes, and Clark Phillips III are all going to be good. So in their roles, obviously. So I think this quarterback room is super deep. I think it's actually a lot better than people will think it would be. I gotta give him an A-. 6, 12, what is that? 18, 20 points for that cornerback room. Honestly, pleasantly surprised with that. Time for the safeties. Oh yeah, FYI, I did have to change the cornerback grade to a B+, just because, again, it really, I mean, H. can play man, is a really good man, but outside of that, don't really have a true man corner. So that's just not that great. But either way, talking about these safeties now, Richie Grant, I like, but he gets burned too much. I'm sorry. As a strong safety, he's got to be better in coverage. He just has not been as nearly consistent enough as he needs to be. But he still had 123 tackles last year. Not a bunch of tackles for loss, but he was very impactful in that facet. And again, had 2 interceptions. Worst case for him, he was average, but definitely a liability in coverage overall. So I like Richie Grant, but he definitely needs to become better there. I mean, man-to-man was not great at all. Jalen Hawkins was out there to basically cover for Richie Grant, literally. And he was good, but I definitely think he's more of a free safety. Because I know they're having him play strong now, but he definitely fits better there where he can come up and make tackles instead of having to chase guys down. Because I don't think he has the speed there. That's why he had to move the free safety, strong safety, so he could basically just be able to make plays up front, because you're not gonna juke him out, but you can get around him for sure. But obviously, again, free safety, he had to be a lot more conservative, and I do think that limited his ability to make plays, so that's why they didn't move the strong safety. But in coverage, he is very disciplined. Jesse Bates III, again, one of the better cover corners and safeties in the league for sure. He's definitely a ball hawk, but I mean, outside of 2020, he hasn't had an elite season. Last year, he was very good, but definitely much better than 2021 in coverage. But he still wasn't great. He was very good, but he wasn't great. Like, he was good, very good, but just not great. So, I like Jesse Bates a lot in coverage, very disciplined. Maybe not super duper disciplined, but he's still very good. Micah Abernathy, out of Tennessee. Don't ask me why he's a backup. Just don't. And DeMarco Hollums, again, very underwhelming in coverage, and really is just straight up slow. But he still makes plays. Getting out of Alabama, he was a big guy for them in terms of basically just making tackles and being that conservative type of guy. But again, just slow and is just not great in coverage. So as a 5th option, I don't think he's the worst. But Jalen Hawkins isn't the worst guy to have as a backup for sure, but he is a little limited. Clifford Chapman, if you don't know who he is, UDFA at UTSA, he was a very good leader with them. But he's 26. I'm sorry, you can't have a 26-year-old freaking safety coming to the league. I'm sorry. But I think he should be decent. He'll probably get some special team snaps. So, at least a special teamer, he'll be good. So, they've got 3, I'm honestly starting caliber safeties. Jalen Hawkins is not he is limited. But even DeMarco Hollins being out there wouldn't be the end of the world. But again, outside of Jesse Bates, I'm not for sure they have an actual true safety that can cover over the top. Which could, if he does go down, would not be good. But with all that said, I still got to give them a B at safety. Again, having Jesse Bates is a lot better, but they still they don't have a true... They have one good cover safety, and that's just not going to get it done. Again, if Jesse Bates goes back to the elite level, they'll probably be in the A tier, because the other guys just, make the tackles that I expect them to make, which are hard tackles, but they do have guys who can make a lot of tackles, which is huge. But, again, Jesse Bates being the only really solid cover safety is not good. That's why I have to give him a B. And their depth isn't great either. So, I want to give him a higher grade. I just can't right now because it's just not. So, it wouldn't be fair. 9, 18, 24 points for the safeties. Time for this overall defensive grade. And for this defense, the grade actually comes out to 100. But I got to give him, and that's a C+. But I got to give him a B- because there really isn't that, there's not a hole in this defense. You got to realize that. They're outside, AJ Terrell and Jesse Bates should be very good. But they don't have, oh, God, that guy is very close to being, he's a top 5 guy in the league. AJ Terrell can be that. Jesse Bates can be that. But at this point, Jesse Bates, he's probably a top, let's say 5 or 4 in the league. But he doesn't make the plays or the tackles that you need to be really be that elite of the elitist safeties. And again, AJ Terrell was not great last year, so I gotta keep that in mind. He is very good, but I just can't give them that. That's why I give them the B- to the defense, though, because outside of that, the pass rush is really weak, but it's not weak, but it's not great. So the reason it's a C is because it's okay. You're not looking at oh God, but you're not oh but you're not looking at oh God, they're gonna just absolutely game wreckers are, like terrible. So, I think it's right in the middle. Whatever. Back to it. B-. I think this is a decent defense. I mean, it's going to be probably more like average what they're going to come out to, but the talent is there. It should be good. Time for the special teams unit. Love or hate the meme, Young-Ho Koo is a very solid kicker. I mean, last year, was he great? No, but he's still pretty good. And again, with the Falcons, he's been good. Yeah, he's a good kicker. Bradley Pinion kicks bombs. He just straight up kicks bombs. I mean, maybe not as far. I mean, he kicks bombs. He just kicks bombs. Mike Hughes as a punt returner, okay. I still think, where is he? Scotty Miller should be that, but whatever. He doesn't muff punts. Cordell Patterson, probably still the best kick returner in the league. No, Keyshawn Nixon might be, but, he is the best kick returner in NFL history. He will be a Hall of Famer. Lee McCole, I mean, he's a decent long snapper. Did show, honestly, he did have some bad snaps last year. Wasn't like it was terrible, but like he actually did look a little shaky for a young guy, but he's still honestly, he's okay long snapper. I mean, he's probably one of the only guys you can judge because he actually made some bad snaps. That's all I got there though. Let's get right to the grade. I gotta give him a B. I'm gonna give him a B+. I mean, Liam McColl's not a great long snapper. Mike Hughes isn't a great returner. I mean, overall the unit isn't great overall, but they've got a really good kicker, a really good punter, and a really good kick returner. I mean, the best kick returner in the league. So I gotta give him a B+. One way or another. It comes out to 3, 6, 9. Yeah. 9 points for that special teams unit. Time for looking at the Falcons' depth. At quarterback for the Falcons, the depth is probably an A. I mean, I get you don't want Logan Woodside or Felipe Franks playing. I still don't care. I gotta give him an A because Taylor Heineke is a near starter. So, I'll give it, B+. Hold the brakes there. Running back depth, A+. Wide receiver depth, D. Yeah, D. It's not good. It's not a D-. It's not like an F. Or, you know what? I might give it a D-. It's not very good. Tight end depth, probably A. It's pretty good. Offensive line depth, it's not great, probably, but it's good. Okay, B-. Okay, overall, let's get B. Okay, let's give it a B. Okay, back to the point. Overall offensive, depth grade, I mean, I get the wide receiver core is really bad, but outside of that, every other position is pretty good. So, let's give it a B. They've got good depth. Linebacker depth, probably like a C. It's not great. Defensive line depth, probably a B+. It's good. Pass rush depth, honestly, they've got some decent depth there. I mean, it's not great, but it works, so probably a C+. Cornerback depth, A. It's really good. I mean, they've got a ton of guys. Safety depth, probably a D+, C-. Probably could give it a D+. Overall defensive depth, I'm going to say it's probably a B. It's also solid. So that probably gives their team depth about a B. I mean, Falcons got good depth on their team. Some positions are definitely better than others, but getting some ups and some really far downs, but I think they have good depth. Falcons, yeah, they're usually a pretty deep team. So that comes out to 12, 24, 20, 30 points for their, 12, 24, 28 points for that Falcons depth. Time for the identity. All right, first off, what is this Falcons offense going to look like? I think it's pretty simple. They're going to freaking run the ball more than they did last year. I think it's pretty straightforward. So identity on their offense, outside of maybe how they're going to use Kyle Pitts and how this wide receiver core is going to be used, and even Desmond Ridder, which I do think is a little bit of an issue. It's probably like a A- because they're going to run the ball as much as they possibly can. Defensively, on the other hand, it's a little bit different. First off, they don't have a true guy who can cover outside of maybe Michael Walker. He has potential to. In coverage, again, they don't have the cornerbacks are fine, but the safeties, again, they're really thin at linebacker and safety in terms of cover guys, because they've got guys who can tackle for sure and make plays, but they don't have a guy who can, a true, they're really thin with coverage. So I think that could be a little bit of an issue. But their pass rush it's gonna get there sometimes, but on third down they're gonna really have to rely on coverage, which again, I don't know if they truly have outside of corners, so they're gonna really have to rely heavily on that. Again, when you have a defense, they're gonna have to blitz a lot because again they don't have great pass rush. The defensive line will get them some pressure, which I think will relieve it a little bit, but I don't think overall, accumulatively, this defense really just meshes well, just like with the personnel they have. So I'm not gonna lie, they're gonna have to figure out how to run a lot of zone blitz schemes, because to run straight up zone, which is what their safeties are really gonna need to run, again, really with the linebackers as well, to really get the success they need to. Because outside of AJ Terrell and probably Jesse Bates, they don't have a true guy who can play man on this whole team. I'm gonna be honest, they don't. So that in mind, yeah, Jeff Okudah can, but still, they don't have, again, a ton of man guys, which is a problem. So if they want to get pressure, it's gonna have to be zone blitz, which again is I don't think they have the defensive corner for right now. their defense coordinator, Ryan Nielsen, is not that type of guy, but there's a reason they hired him. I mean, the run defense should be good. Sorry, I'm talking about the defense, what is called this defense so much. But I think their identity, it's a little uncertain, so I gotta give like a C-. I don't know what they're gonna do for sure. Offensively, they're pretty good, but I gotta give them a C+, because in their defense, I don't know what Ryan Nielsen's gonna do to really get this team to mesh together. I'm really interested to see what they can do, though, because they've got a lot of good players, and then, again, got a lot of interesting guys that can do a lot of cool stuff, so I'm interested to see what they do. But overall, again, offensively, they're gonna run the dang football. Defensively, probably gonna play a lot of zone blitz, which I don't know if they'll be able to dial up right, so I hope Ryan Nielsen doesn't botch it, but we'll see. 30 points for their team identity. Sorry I talked so much about that. Time for the overall grade. And for this Falcons roster, they actually get a B-. Will I give them that? No. I'll give them a C+. What was that? What'd I give them? No, wait. Depth was a B. This was a C+. Okay. Roster grade, C+. It's pretty simple here. I know it's in the B-, but talent-wise, this Falcons team, it's good. It's a deep room. They've got a lot of good groups, but there aren't many holes really at all. But again, quarterback. Again, I got to keep talking about this. It's kind of, should I give them a B-? No, because again, their roster, I just can't. Like, I don't think they're an above-average roster at this point. They have a decent roster, but I don't think it's above average. So I got to give them a C+, because it's a good group, and they got some really good groups as well. They don't really have any bad positions outside of probably receiver, but I don't know. I just can't give them that, because their identity, defensively at least, is kind of a mess. So again, they're gonna run the ball a ton, but hope they hit that 3,500 yard mark, 3,500 yards. Because I'm gonna be honest, really the only way they're gonna win the division. So that's all I got for this Falcons roster grades. Hope you guys enjoyed. C+, 267 total points. Again, the points will come back to help them later, because again, that is a B- overall. But I gotta give them a C+, because I don't know. I just gotta give them it, because I don't think they have an above average roster in hindsight. So that's what I got, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you next one.
Fake to Miller, who blocks Freeney, going deep. Oh, he's got Fuller. That is a touchdown. No flags. 59-yard strike. What a throw and a run by the fleet-footed Will Fuller.
He's just going to go to the post off of play action. And play action gets it done. You look at Earl Thomas. He steps up, and once he steps up, he can't recover quickly enough for the speedy Will Fuller.